Beautiful day everybody, welcome back to the Cars924 YouTube channel. My name is Kudzai, and in today's episode I bring you something very controversial. It's going to be a very touchy topic for some people because of the cars that I'm actually going to be listing in today's episode. So before we even touch on to that, if you're new to the channel, welcome. This is the place where everything is cars. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications to be alerted when a new video is dropped. So without any further ado, let's run a small little cinematic shot of all the cars we're going to be talking about in this video, and let's discuss the top 5 most overrated cars in the automotive scene. Let's go. Alright, so I'm very afraid to say this, but the first car we're going to be discussing in today's episode is the Nissan GT-R, aka Zilla. I feel like this car is a little bit overpraised due to it actually being so capable and have like so much great tuning potential, to the point where you can actually stretch this car to like over 2,000 or 3,000 horsepower. I think it's just a little bit too overpraised for what it is. Of course, it's a Japanese supercar with a 3.8 liter twin turbo V6. You know, naturally these cars make around about 575 horsepower, but with the Nismo package, roundabout makes it down up to 600 horsepower. So I think this car is just a little bit too praised for what it is. Sure, I mean, like Ford kills most supercars when this thing is tuned, and then I think when this thing is at its absolute limit, can absolutely destroy hypercars if it can. So the next car we're going to be discussing on this list that's pretty controversial and pretty much overrated is the Porsche 911 Pereira 4S. The reason as to why I think this car is actually overrated is due to it actually having the same consistent design every single year for the past so many decades, to the point where I've absolutely kind of lost touch with the car. To be honest, I was actually quite a small fan of it before, and I was obviously in love with the aesthetic appearance, the 3-liter flat 6 at the rear. You know, it's a pretty cool design, but for it to consistently keep on coming up every single year, I think it's kind of fading out for me. I don't think it entices me anymore. The next car, pretty much even non-petrol heads even know this car by name. They know what it looks like. It's the Ford Mustang. Sure, cool, it's an American icon, American muscle. I mean, like, what more can we say? It needs no introduction. I mean, like, this car is pretty peculiar, and you know, it's got a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8. But now the reason as to why I think this car is not overrated is now because these cars basically Ford is basically trying to appeal to a new audience as well, and people who don't necessarily have too much money to spend on a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 Mustang, to the point where they've actually introduced, I think it's the 2.3 liter or the 2-liter EcoBoost engine in a Ford Mustang, with which they've downsized the engine by 4 cylinders. So I think that's a big compromise. So next up on our list is the Ferrari F8 Tributo, pretty much a fresh car entering into the automotive scene. Pretty much overrated, to be honest. I think the Ferrari 458 does a much better job in terms of looks, but not necessarily performance. But then in terms of looks, it's a little bit controversial. It's very controversial. I mean, like, it doesn't look like a Ferrari. It looks a little bit too futuristic. It looks too much of a concept car, if you understand what I'm saying. Whereas like the predecessor models, they look very iconic, they look flawless, you know, they're very good cars. But the F8 Tributo, not too much of a fan of it. So the last and final car we're going to be discussing in today's episode is the Bmw M2 competition. To be honest, this car, I was never a fan of it when it actually made its public debut. I was more or less a big fan of the Bmw M2 F87, the 2016 one, with the N55 engine. That was the real M2. Even came with the manual transmission as well. That car is absolutely amazing. It sounds good and it looks good nonetheless as well. Not that I'm saying that the M2 comp doesn't look good, but the fact that they actually had to go and put the S55 engine from the Bmw M4 and the M3 into the M2 just to make it that much more aggressive, I don't know, it's subjective. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. I'd rather have the normal M2. Alright, that's it for today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Make sure to leave a like. I know I triggered a few people today Very, very sorry about that, but that's just how I feel on these particular type of cars. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Peace.